Have you ever wondered which businesses and industries are out there desperately seeking your genius and support? Welcome to the Op Shop Show's latest series, which I am calling The Client Files. And we are going to be interviewing business owners in all different types of industries who hire people exactly like you. We're going to learn a little bit more about what options are available to you, what types of clients you might not have even heard about, and then we're going to get a behind the scenes look into what does their actual business do day to day. So you can start matching up your skill set. And then we're going to ask that very important question. When you hire a virtual assistant, what are you looking for? So keep an eye out on the Op Shop Show as we release this new series. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you always find out when the next one is coming. Let's dive in to the client files.
Welcome to another episode of the Client Files, where we take you behind the scenes of different types of businesses that you may not know a lot about. And I'm very excited for today's guest. She is someone that I have worked with before, that I have a great joy in speaking with, and I am going to let her take center stage and introduce herself and her business.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I'm Dana Castro and I own Three Crown Studio. And we are a business that does all things digital and visual. So, photography, video services, website building. So, if you have a brand and you need help with the visual side of things, I'm here for you.
Ooh, Dana, I just love how you put that so succinctly. It's like it's the visual. It is whatever can be seen is something that you're going to be into. So with those
Yeah.
types of different services that you work with people on, can you give us a little bit of insight into what happens in, let's say, an average week or an average day? Like, how are you spending your time to actually run a business that delivers on those things?
Yeah. So it's a lot of jumping around, honestly, and it does change pretty rapidly and it's hard to predict from week to week like what might be the main project that I'm working on. So that could be like a really deep dive into a website build. It
Mm-hmm.
could be editing 15 sessions. So there's a
Mm.
lot of like sitting down desk work and also just to like sometimes break up the boredom for myself too. Like I don't love to work on something for too long because then I kind of lose that
Mm-hmm.
creative flow. So
Yeah.
I'll work on, I'll time block something, do that for 2 hours, come back to it with some fresh eyes later on. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of moving around. I don't have necessarily set days that I do, website stuff and set days that I do photography stuff. Really depends
Mm-hmm.
on the flow of the projects.
Hmm. Can you walk? So I have done a photo shoot with you. So can you kind of walk us through the process of from the time someone like me says, "Hi, can we do photos together, please?" all the way up until I get my photos. What are kind of some of the highlights in terms of how that rolls out and some of the moving pieces that you have to pay attention to?
Hmm. Yeah. So first of all, it's for sure. Usually someone reaches out either through my website, email, or social media. And it's sort of just like that kickoff, like, hey, I'm interested in working with you. So the first step then is that I book a discovery call with them. So we
Mm-hmm.
have a quick chat, just make sure they understand my style. Also, just I'd like to see people face to face before I spend a couple hours shooting with them. And then after that, if it all looks good, then I will send a proposal to them with a contract and their deposit invoice. So
Mm-hmm.
that sort of locks it all in. And then that'll
Yeah.
also include, the extras. So if we're using a makeup artist, if we're using studio, that'll all
Mm-hmm.
be arranged in that step. Then we got shoot day. That's the fun part. Then we have editing that
Mm-hmm.
session, gallery delivery. So delivering those images to my clients, they make their selects from that gallery. And then
Mm-hmm.
the final step is putting the finishing touches and editing their selects and then re-uploading those for high res download for them. And then of course I
Mm-hmm.
send a little thank you something afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my start to
Yeah.
finish.
Yeah, it's really interesting, I think, with a service like photography or even working with videographers, that it really does run the gamut from customer service and sales to administrative, talking to people, organizing locations, makeup artists, supplemental help on a shoot. And then the creative aspect that is like the editing, the actual shoot, like talking to someone through like how to even choose photos, like what is a good photo? I don't know. These
I miss,
things.
I definitely miss some steps in there. And you're right. Like one of them is
Hmm.
booking the actual makeup artist, booking the studio
Hmm.
on their behalf. And then the other one is, planning out the shoot in terms of sort of vision
Hmm.
boarding that, mood boarding that, and then having
Hmm.
those shot lists. So there's a lot of steps from the
Hmm.
start to the finish that I've sort of over the years just sort of refined even more and more
Hmm.
for what works well for me.
Hmm. So when we look at kind of all the different moving pieces that are involved in some of the projects, whether it's like where it's a website or a brand photo shoot, when you kind of look at all of those things and you've had help in the past that some good things, some bad things, but when you kind of look at all of the stuff that you have on the go and the type of support that if you were looking for some would be the most helpful, how do you like what is really important to you when hiring that type of support? Like what traits, what qualities, like to do what you do, what makes like a good right hand person?
That is, I'm sure you hear this a lot, but that's the hardest question. It's like another me, like just duplicate me. Like it's really, yeah. Just, I think, well, communication style is extremely
Hmm.
important. So I want somebody that would communicate on my behalf or for my business's
Hmm.
behalf with warmth, enthusiasm, kindness.
Hmm.
That's big because that's what my brand is all about, is
Hmm.
being inclusive. So that's a big personality trait. Um, yeah, I was saying, as you mentioned, like I haven't had great success with outsourcing help. A big part of that could have been me as well,
Hmm.
not knowing what the right things are
Hmm.
to hand over to a VA, and
Hmm.
maybe someone that would be willing to take the reins and sort of
Hmm.
tell me what I need help with. Because
Hmm.
I've been doing this for so long now that maybe I'm just stuck in my, flow, and I don't actually know
Hmm.
what piece I should give up.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point that maybe some people don't consider is when you are working with like contractors, in a way, they're the expert who's coming in to take care of you. So I think there is such great opportunity for people in those roles to kind of come in and say, I'm here, tell me what you got, and then I will tell you what I will do. Like, I think there is such a, like, to me, that is such an incentive to work with someone to almost feel like I'm going to be taken care of so I can focus on the things that I want to focus on and not feel like I have to like ride herd on someone else. Because that's why you bring someone
Yeah,
in to not have to spend time doing that.
that sounds really nice. I'm sold.
Wrap it up. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's continue with that scenario that if you were looking for help and you had a bunch of applications in front of you, what kind of makes someone stand out at that point to make you even think, okay, that's worth a conversation at least?
Mhm. I think that definitely someone with some sort of highlight there on a creative thing. So
Hmm.
they don't need to understand photography or anything like that, but just somebody
Hmm.
who just has a little bit of a creative flair going on, or like that
Hmm.
natural interest. Because aesthetic is a big part of a lot of the things that I produce too. So even if
Hmm.
I'm marketing a session or I'm marketing some mini sessions that are coming up, like things like that, I want somebody that has a little bit of that creative edge
Hmm.
to help me maybe produce some marketing materials, or
Hmm.
speak in my brand voice. So yeah,
Hmm.
just having some, at least some curiosity and interest in thinking like this world that I'm in is kind of fun would be
Hmm.
important for them, rather than just having someone who just understands, like, how to be a great VA.
Yeah, it is fun. I shot off a confetti cannon at our photo shoot. There is
Yeah.
fun to be had in.
There, that confetti apparently came trickling down for weeks, which I was told afterwards.
Oops.
Apparently it stuck to the ceiling, then it would like just slowly come down when it was
Like
ready.
drift down. I just,
Yeah.
I
I
leave a
didn't
mark.
I didn't know that till after. Here I was thinking I cleaned up really well, but apparently it sticks to the
Yeah.
ceiling. You learn
Oopsie.
something. You learn
There you
something
go.
every
We're
time. Every
documenting that
time.
moment.
Yeah.
So I think it is really interesting, especially for a business like yours. Some people think like I have administrative skills, I'm organized, I can do this. But I think what you mentioned that's really important for people to take note of is like the personality of the brand that they're going to work with. Like you are in a creative field. So while you don't need to be a subject matter expert in terms of like take photo and all the pieces, it really is about connecting to what is the type of this business? What is the feeling of it? What is the brand? And at least having an interest in that and a willingness to kind of show up to play with that. I
Yeah.
think especially in a creative field.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Ooh, I like that. I was like, I just like how you said warmth earlier too. Like I think that's such like an underused quality that we don't really think about when we're hiring help. It's like that
Yeah.
concept of warmth and kindness. And I was like, yes, I want to like the
Yeah.
people I work with.
Representing that professionalism at all times is really, really important to me. Like I like to be relatable and I like to be down to earth, but running a professional business is extremely important to me.
Mhm.
So yeah, taking things very seriously. Maybe that comes from my corporate background too. It sort of
Mhm.
bled over into this life and yeah, and I like to approach things as professionally as I can.
I love that. All right. So to take us home, if you were speaking to a group of people who work in that operational support space, VAs, OBMs, other tech implementers, and they were like, I want to work with photographers, I want to work with creatives, what would kind of be your number one piece of advice for them to really attract and connect with the person who runs a business like yours?
Oh my, that's a hard question. Oh,
Asking the hard one.
yeah, that was really hard. Um, if are we assuming that they know nothing about this industry, like, and they're just kind of wanting to break into like helping photographers?
Yeah, let's try that. Let's try that.
Okay, so I would maybe begin to understand the importance for photographers of softwares that we use.
Hmm.
So like we all, we're yes, invoicing, but also the photo selection softwares that we use are
Hmm.
really important. So that
Hmm.
would be something that I'm sure a lot of us would need help with on the heavy lifting side. If someone is even remotely, like if a VA or an OBM is like even remotely interested in helping with editing, and that's something that would be great. Like if you had that skill where you could also like edit images to help,
Hmm.
that would just
Hmm.
be like chef's kiss. But
Hmm.
yeah, understanding sort of the softwares that we use to run our business, which is there's a lot of them, right? We're dealing with
Hmm.
large files and large file
Hmm.
management and things like that. So that's an important one. Um I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I mean, you don't obviously have to understand photography
Hmm.
necessarily, but just understand how we operate our business on a really like it's a very like pretty fast paced, right? From the time that
Hmm.
like someone books a shoot to have the shoot to deliver the gallery to it moves pretty quickly. And as you can imagine, people are really excited to get their images.
Hmm.
So, like keeping that momentum going, that excitement up with clients, all the way through to the end until that shoot is done
Hmm.
is really good to know too that like while our
Hmm.
clients are active like actively in shoot mode or planning shoot mode, we're really available to them until like I
Hmm.
get text messages at night like, hey, what do you think of this outfit I'm thinking about bringing, or like, I just had this stroke of genius to bring this thing with me. And so yeah, understanding that like I'm really available to them until
Hmm.
shoot day happens, and then that's their moment, and then after it's really about celebrating that it's happened.
Hmm. Ooh, I like that. So it's really kind of coming to the table or to an application or to a conversation with, like, yeah, here's what I do. Here's what I do consistently. Here's what I do well. And here's maybe something specialized, or here's something based on research I've done to really understand how I can best support you and kind of like lead with that so that the rest of it becomes a, oh, yeah, of course I do that. But let me tell you what else I can do for you to kind of stand out in that fashion.
Yeah, customer experience is really important. And, we make very quick connections with photography with people. For some people, it's a very vulnerable place to be to step in front of someone's camera. So we make very close connections during that time. And that it's not just like, hey, it's not transactional. For me,
Hmm.
at least, it's not. especially with my sessions that go on, 4 or 5 hour sessions. That's a long time for us to be working together. And so we get tight. So taking that right through to the end with that connection and that experience for them is very, very important to me. And then there's always an after, but I can only control what happens during.
So true. So true.
Yeah.
Dan, thank you so much for coming and sharing this little insight behind the scenes. If people want to learn more about you, your business, see some of your work, where can they go?
I am on the interweb at www.threecrownstudio.com and on social media, predominantly Instagram, at 3 Crowns Branding. And that's where you can find me. And I love a random DM. So pop in there. I will send you whatever recipe I just made for dinner. Yeah, just if you see something you like, just, drop in there and I'm happy to start a conversation.
Love that. Dana, thank you so much. Appreciate you always.